So as we begin and continue this program, our next speaker is going to be coming up. He is Dr. Ramirez, and he is a wonderful gentleman that is joining us from afar. Dr. Ramirez is a medical doctor, a research scientist, published author, and international speaker. Dr. Ramirez is involved in Weimar University and Charles Drew University. His major research interests have been food and lifestyle and having the ability to prevent and reverse physical and mental disease. This research has resulted in over 165 published research projects, which he has shared in person in 96 countries. He's on the editorial board of the Journal of Frontiers in Psychology. His work has been featured on Telemundo, 3ABN, NBC's Texoma, and Icelandic National TV. He is the author of Pandemic Busters, Blueprint for Revival, 21-Day Turnaround, The Vitality Code, and co-author of the 3rd and 4th editions of The Lifestyle Medicine, and also the book Rethink Food with Dr. Neil Bernard. Please give a warm round of applause for Dr. Ramirez as he comes with our next presentation.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I just got back from literally that trip. I was in literal 10 countries around the world. And you can see that the interest on lifestyle medicine is tremendous. I do a lot of research. This is one of my latest papers. This study, we were documenting how hydrotherapy is one of the best things you can do to activate your immune system. And specifically in this paper, we were focusing on COVID-19. I wish they would have promoted this much more during the pandemic. The leader of hydrotherapy around the world happened to be the people of Finland. Anybody knows what the people of Finland do that is something very cultural? Sauna. Every house in Finland has a sauna. In fact, statistics tell us that there is one sauna for every 2 people in Finland. That's how many saunas there are. So every house has one, and also they have the public saunas where people like to go and visit and communicate with each other. And if you're not familiar with the sauna, this is what a sauna is. It's basically a room made out of wood, and then you warm up those stones, you put some water, and that fills the whole room with this vapor, and that increases the temperature of the body. Now, this is not a new concept. There are many cultures that have done this throughout the years. This is a 700-year-old picture. This is a picture from the Aztecs from Mexico, and you can see how they're preparing their sauna. They're warming up on the left side of things, the room, and then on the right side, that is going to have the same effect as in a sauna. And we now know why it works scientifically. This is the reason why it works. See, there's something called the interference, and learn it this way. Interference interfere with virus. So when your interference are nice and high, viruses are going to have a hard time infecting you. Now, notice what happens when your body reaches a temperature of 102 Fahrenheit. Interference literally explode in your body, which is very good. So that's why statistics from Finland during the time of the COVID-19, 75% of the people that died of COVID-19 in Finland were foreigners living in Finland. See, the foreigners don't do the sauna bath as religiously as the Finnish people do. Finnish people have to go to that sauna once, twice, 3 times per week, and the foreigners don't do that. So I was in Finland last year speaking, and I told my friends, I want to do the sauna bath the way the Finnish people do it. And they told me, are you sure? Yes, I'm very sure. So we took out the chainsaws and went down to the frozen lake. And I'm telling you, was thick ice. You know, you have to remove those blocks of ice there with those metal poles. It was quite a task to do that. Then we warm up the sauna, nice and warm, and then boom, you know. And then you count 1, 2, and 3, and you go down, you know. You can see where my hand is, still the ice, you know, is that thick. For Finnish people, this is the definition of fun, okay? And they've been doing this for thousands of years. And they're maybe into something. Finnish people are among the longest living people on earth. So there may be something into that sauna. I actually wrote a book called Pandemic Busters. I have a few copies here with me, so talk to me if you're interested in getting one of these books. This book is written like an infographic. Of course, you know, it has a chapter on hydrotherapy. Notice the saying from the Finnish people, a home without a sauna is not a home. So that's something that you can do there as a building project. And it deals with 22 things you need to be doing to have a good immunity. If you want a few chapters, just send me an email. I'll be happy to email you a few chapters, samples, just Dr. Eddie Ramirez at gmail.com. And let me give you this from the beginning. I'm going to be citing a few of my research. To find my research, just Google Francisco, which is my other name, Francisco Ramirez ResearchGate. Those 3 words will take you to all my research. I also have a very active Twitter account, Eddie RDMD, and there's a YouTube page there with videos with multiple languages, as well as an Instagram page if you want to come and travel with me around the world and see what I am seeing. Let me give you a few samples of the things I put on my Twitter account. Look at this very interesting study showing that if you don't do exercise, that is worse for you than having heart disease, having diabetes, and being a smoker. That's how bad it is not to do exercise. In fact, this other study showing that we can predict how long you're gonna live by how much exercise you can do. So your fitness is directly related to your longevity. Therefore, the importance of being physically fit. This other one, how we're seeing a tremendous increase in cancers among young people. That's something new. You used to see a lot of cancers in the 70s, 80s, but now younger than 50 with all kinds of cancers. Notice what the researchers pinpoint as the cause. Use of alcohol, not sleeping enough, smoking, obesity, and eating highly processed foods. Notice that the researchers didn't put their bad luck as one of the causes. It is things that we can literally change, every single one of them. This one fascinating study found out that if a male drinks alcohol 3 months before they make their partner pregnant, that baby has a 44% increased risk of a heart defect. And you know, what do they serve at the weddings? That's the wrong type of drink to be serving at that time, you know, where the possibility of a pregnancy and so forth may happen. In fact, if they abuse the alcohol 6 months before, the risk increases by 52%. So alcohol and fertility, not very well compatible. This other one, 100-year-olds, they ask him, what is some counsel that you can give us so we can reach to 100 years? And they share their wisdom, you know, do what you love, keep asking questions, be kind, stay true to your principles, lend tolerance, share your friendships, keep moving, think positive, never stop reading. Learn from elders, stay determined, believe in your potential, don't neglect your education, and choose your right partner. Lots of wisdom there from these 100-year-old people. This other one from Harvard University, how sitting down for too long is not good for you. If you're gonna be sitting down because of your work, you need to be getting up on a regular basis. And the oldest living male, they asked him, what is the secret to your longevity? He said, it's two things. Number one, don't get angry. If you get angry, you generate oxygen-free radicals, which age you. It's not worth it. And number two, always smile. When you smile, you release all these positive chemicals in your body. So that's something that all of us can learn. So let us go into the topic of this afternoon, the Sabbath and finances. So let me tell you my personal story. I originally studied computer science. I thought that's what I was going to do with my life. This was back in the 90s, where many new companies like Oracle and so forth were coming up in the horizon. I thought that's what I was going to do with my life. But God had other plans. When I was in my last semester, my friends started running. So I started running with them. And I was always the last place among my friends. And I said, that's not right. I need to do something to improve my times. So I went to the library to read, what are the people that are winning the race? What are they doing? You know what I found out that most of the winners of the races do? They are on a plant-based diet. So I said to myself, I'm going to make the switch. Let's see what happens. Man, I started becoming so fast. I started getting first places in my town. Not only that, it was my best semester in that last semester of computer science. In parentheses, last year I ran a 5K. I won the 5K. I mean, I'm not supposed to do that at my age, Yet, the healthy lifestyle makes the difference. So I finished my computer science degree, and I applied for a master's. I get, accepted to the program. And while I was waiting to start my master's degree, I went to visit for the first time in my life a lifestyle center. I have never heard such concept in my life. And as I went there just for the weekend to visit my brother, the doctor in charge heard that I knew about computers. Again, this was the 90s, there was few people that knew about computers back then. So he asked me, will you mind helping me this weekend? I have many computer problems. In one weekend, I fixed most of his computer problems. He was so impressed, he offered me a job on the spot. And to me, this was very confusing. I'm supposed to start my master's program. He's inviting me to work there. What am I going to do? And after thinking and praying about it, I decided not to do my master's, but started working there. And my life changed as a result of that. When I saw with my own eyes how disease was being reversed by lifestyle interventions, from autoimmune conditions to reversal of diabetes, depression, obesity, and all kinds of diseases were being improved, I said to myself, you know what? Computers are nice, but this is what I need to do with my life. And that's when the desire to go into medical school came into my heart. I have also worked and studied in the Black Hills Health and Education Center, a lifestyle center located in South Dakota, just next to the faces of the presidents. Also work in Hawaii with Dr. Sang Lee for some time. I also work in Norway. That's why I speak Norwegian, because I used to live there for many years. And I also work with Dr. Netley and the New Start program up in California. So the reason why I'm telling you this is that by the time I reached and the time that I went to medical school, one of the commitments I made as I went to medical school is that I was going to keep the Sabbath. And at the end of my program, my medical school, I actually end up graduating first place in my class. And I share, because they ask you to do the speech there during the graduation, I share with the rest of the graduates. I told them, look, I'm not supposed to be here in front of you, I'm not supposed to have, graduated in first place. I'm married. You guys are single. It was a private university. I had to work to pay my tuition. Their parents, pay their tuition. You guys study 7 days a week. I study 6 days a week, I'm not supposed to be here. And I told him, I'm going to give you the secret. The secret is found in the Bible, in the book of the Bible called Daniel, on chapter number 1. In fact, I give you that as a homework. Go home, find the book of Daniel and read chapter 1. You're going to see the secret of Daniel also succeeding in life. And we know that the research is clear. People that have that religious commitment, that participate of the religious activities and so forth, they tend to have better economy. This is published in the scientific literature. And the problem is that we live in a very busy world. When you ask somebody, hey, how are you? What do they say? Oh, busy. That's usually the answer they give you, isn't it? And that's not good. As they came up in this article, busy is the new fine. It's no longer fine, it's busy today. 80% of Americans work after hours, equaling an extra day of work per week. You think that's good? You think that's good for your relationships? You think that's good for your health? No, it is not. And as we tend to declare we're busy, almost as a boast of how much we can do, while stillness and rest are considered laziness. And that's not good, because then if our perception of rest is negative, we tend to avoid that. In fact, if you check in the Chinese language, the word that is used for business is heart and debt. And if you are that busy that you don't have time to rest, I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen to you. Your heart is going to die. And I can tell you that as a physician. So we live in a world full of stress. And we need to find proper solutions to bring an end to that. And what happens is that your health suffers if you are not resting. As I like to tell to my patients, your body is like a boat. And how good that boat is, it depends a lot on your genes. If your parents were healthy and so forth, well, you're going to have a very nice quality wood on your boat and so forth. But the choices that you are making are going to determine if that boat is going to keep floating for a long time or if you're going to sink your boat early. So in your 30s and 40s, what diet are you following? How much stress are you allowing in your life? Are you prioritizing sleep? Are you letting your weight go out of control? Are you starting to have insulin resistance? Is your blood pressure starting to go out of control? If those are the choices that you are making, by the time you reach your 50s, there are cracks that are starting to show on your boat. And unless you make tremendous changes in your life, by the time you reach your 60s, water is going to be sipping in your boat, and you're going to get yourself in really big trouble. That's why you need to start making those changes today. And the problem is that it is very well documented. Chronic stress is related to all kinds of health problems. And you need to find a good solution to those problems. And we know very well how some reactions of the body that are supposed to be positive. For example, the reason why your muscles tense when you are stressed is because you're supposed to get ready to run away, from the bear or something that is gonna come and harm you. But if you don't run, that stress is gonna accumulate and you end up gonna having headaches and you're gonna have back pain and so forth. And every single one of those survival mechanisms that are programmed in our body, if we don't react properly, if we don't diffuse that stress, instead of being a blessing to us, that stress comes back and start eating our health. So, as it says in the book Healthful Living, sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation where? Up here. 9/10. So, this stress can have very negative toll in our health. Now, notice this fascinating fact. This is a published paper. How, when somebody, you take the average, risk for heart disease, if somebody doesn't make too many changes in their diet, but starts keeping the Sabbath, in this case, they were focusing on people that became Seventh-day Adventists, you actually decrease by 44% your risk for heart disease. That's a tremendous advantage of starting to keep the Sabbath, taking life easier, and so forth. Now, if you add that keeping of the Sabbath with further dietary changes, for example, becoming an ovo-lacto vegetarian, you decrease that risk by 61%. And if you go and change your diet, just like the diet that you ate this afternoon, a whole food plant-based diet, you actually decrease the risk by 86%. And consider that heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans. So a decrease like this, man, you change the landscape dramatically. In fact, the research shows that following that Adventist lifestyle increases among females between 2 to 5 years by keeping the Sabbath and so forth, and among males 4 to 10 years. Isn't this a good deal? And we're talking about years of quality, not in a nursing home there, they are not able to move and so forth, but years of quality that you can continue to fulfill all those dreams and goals that you have. So the reality is that we are creatures of habit. So therefore, we need to start putting the right habits in our life. Then we will harvest the blessings. And there is a process in our brains by the name of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity tells us that the behaviors that we repeat, as we repeat them, they start creating pathways in our brain so that the next time we do them, it gets easier and easier to do them. For example, you can do the following experiment. You can take a little ball and give it to a 10-month-old baby. And you tell the baby, hey, baby, throw me the ball. What's the baby gonna do? The ball probably is gonna fall behind him before he throws him forward. Now that baby's gonna have a hard time throwing that ball because he has not done that very much. But how come I can even turn off the light and tell you, I want you to throw that ball that way. You're gonna throw, somewhat that ball in that direction. Why you can do it easier and the baby has a hard time? Neuroplasticity. You have done that so many times that it has become a pathway and it is easier for you to throw that object. So, in the same way, healthy habits require neuroplasticity. And at the beginning, it may be challenging. It's, for example, to play the guitar. If you don't play the guitar, and it's like the very first time that you try to play the guitar, man, it is quite a task to play a guitar. You have to twist your hand. It's kind of, uncomfortable. Then you have to press those chords. It's painful to be pressing those chords and so forth. You have to have the right rhythm. And man, it is just a really complicated process just to play a guitar. How come there's people that they can be in complete darkness, they grab the guitar and play beautiful music? What's the answer? The answer starts with an N. Neuroplasticity. They have done it so many times that it is easier for them to do it. In the same way, as you start acquiring new healthy habits, at the beginning, it may be challenging, just like the guitar. But what do you need to do? You need to keep on doing it. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. Now, that's the good news about good habits. Unfortunately, bad habits can also have that negative neuroplasticity. And the more you do the bad habit, the easier it gets, unfortunately. So, the way things work is that those connections on the brain occur through those neurons connecting to one another. Now, the brain is such a fantastic organ that you are able to even learn some fantastic things. Like this Dr. Bach Irita from Minnesota, from Wisconsin University, he started teaching blind people to see with their tongue. Have you ever heard such thing? Let me show you a little video about it. So these people are actually fully blind. They cannot see. And this is what Paul Baccarita did. Every single one of them is blind. He's playing the darts. Notice the thing he has in his mouth. I'll explain to you in a minute how it works. He's playing golf, a completely blind person. Picking up the ball. Playing tic-tac-toe. Notice the thing he's going to put in his mouth. Climbing. Playing ball. Walking by himself. Watching the fireworks. So harnessing the power, this clock never worked. Harnessing the power of neuroplasticity, the person is able to learn how to see with their tongue. How does it work? Well, they has these glasses that has a camera. The camera captures the contour of the objects, and then they have this little computer that they put in their mouth, and the silhouettes are translated into small pins that the tongue can sense, so you can literally learn to see with your tongue. Now, if you can learn to see with your tongue, you think you could learn to speak Spanish. The potential is there. So see, lifestyle changes are powerful. This is my clinical case. We had this patient, a classic patient that comes to us diabetic, taking one medication, high blood pressure, taking two medications, and his blood pressure is not good. Look at that, 150/78, even with two medications, and a big problem with his weight, 381 pounds. In only 18 days of changing his lifestyle, his blood pressure came down to normal levels. We had to stop the blood pressure medication. Glucose came down to normal levels. We had to stop his diabetic medication. 11 months later, when we do complete blood analysis, everything is perfectly normal, showing us by the hemoglobin A1C that his diabetes has been completely reversed. And you can see the change here. After losing 141 pounds, this patient is no longer hypertensive, no longer diabetic, no longer obese. That good news or bad news? Good news. And that's exactly what we want you to experience. So in closing, I want to show you this person. It's actually somebody that I know personally. The research is very clear. Notice this article, the surprising benefits of doing nothing. How, by establishing that Sabbath rest, we can have tremendous benefits. Sabbath time, a time of regeneration and healing. So, Stephen, I know him personally, he started a business in Guam, was very successful. And he was able to buy his partner's shares, and he became the sole proprietorship. And he was one of the most successful renting things. He was the one that gives you tours of the island and lets you go on the parachute there over the water and stuff like that. But then here comes September 2001. And after the terrorist attack, after America started the war in Iraq, after a hurricane came in there, his whole business started going downhill because the Japanese tourists, which were the ones that used to come and use the facilities there, no longer wanted to come there. And then he got convicted in his life that he needed to keep the Sabbath day. So apart from being already in debt and so forth, he took the step forward to start keeping the Sabbath and closing his business on the Sabbath day. People say you're out of your mind, you're going to go out of business. Guess what? The tremendous blessing of God came on him, and he actually surpassed every single competitor with him. When he went and talked to the biggest tourist supplier that was the one that was bringing all the tourists to the island, and he went to explain to them how, even though they wanted him to work on Sabbath, he was not going to open to Sabbath. They had a meeting among themselves, and they said, you know what? People with character like this, these are the people that are worth working with. And they gave him the contract, for these tourists to come there and be able to enjoy their facilities and so forth. So this is going to be the challenge for this afternoon. Are you going to keep that stress, or are you going to start establishing a Sabbath rest to have that time out for regeneration and regrowth? In parentheses, if you're interested in listening to his testimony, just take a picture of this. Just Google Stephen and put his German last name, Casper Bauer, and audio verse. And you can hear from his own lips his story. So if we don't allow a rhythm of rest in our daily lives, illness is going to become our Sabbath. So may God bless you. May you be able to enter into that Sabbath and have that regeneration that is available to all of us. As I tell my patients, is like the blessing of the melatonin at night. Every night, melatonin is going to come and help repair your process if you go to bed early. The same story happens every single Sabbath. There's a special blessing that comes. And if you choose not to rest in the Sabbath, you are going to miss that blessing. May God bless you. Thank you very much for your attention. And here, if anybody's interested in this Pandemic Busters book,